On this horror timeline, we're getting a little bit bittersweet. That's right. Larry Cohen just passed away. Great horror filmmaker, brought you some all-time classic films like The Stuff. He brought you Q. He brought you Return to Salem's Lot. And he brought you this series here. We're talking about It's Alive, the classic Killer Baby series from Larry Cohen. And just to be safe for this one, I have Stella locked in the other room. We start off back in 1974 with It's Alive, which was originally titled Baby Killer, which sounds like a totally different kind of movie. Frank and Lenore are about to have their second child, but everything goes wrong as the entire staff of doctors is killed and their baby goes missing. Frank gets fired and first assumes the baby died and wants it to be dead when other bodies start showing up. It appears as if the mutation was possibly caused by fertility drugs Lenore was taking, and it's pretty faint, but this blackboard appears to show a date of May 14th, 1973. And eventually the baby finds its way home, as Frank wounds it, but then when faced with killing it, it is unable to do so. He tries to save it, but it's ultimately brought down in a hail of bullets. Finally, there's a police radio call with news that another mutant baby has been born in Seattle. It took 4 years to get a sequel off the ground in 1978's It Lives Again, also known as It's Alive 2. We're now in Arizona, and Frank's back, and we find out that the Seattle baby was killed at birth, and he lets this couple know that their baby has the potential to be a mutant as well. He tells of another time in Illinois with a false alarm, and then when she goes into labor, the police are there to kill the baby, but Frank saves them. And then things get out of hand at the birth, and when they get the baby to a safe house, they tell the dad that there's 2 more babies there. They all look the same, and they're named Adam, Eve, and, well, Scott. I mean, what was the other option? You've got Adam and you've got Eve. I mean, what are they gonna name it, like Serpent? Apple? Detective Perkins comes back from the first one, the babies escape and start causing chaos, and the police kill one outside, and the second one in the house, while Frank takes the third, but the baby gets scared and kills him. Mallory says that the Seattle baby was his and says it was 2 years ago, placing this movie in 1975. And this guy, not that I'm judging, but he looks a little old to be a new dad. And the actor was about 70 at the time of filming. Scott finally finds his parents and they embrace it, but the police arrive and they have to shoot their own baby to save Mallory's life. We end with Eugene taking on Frank's role of seeking out parents of mutant children. Nine long years passed, and it wasn't until 1987 that It's Alive 3: Island of the Alive arrived. It starts with another baby being born, and the cop exclaims that it's one of them, so people are aware of the mutant babies. Perkins is back, and we're told that 5 mutants are in custody, and that there's more in hiding. These court photos are a little hard to read, but it kind of looks like they say August 15th, 1981. Beef shows up, and Harry Potter Sr. is one of the baby's dads. We meet the baby's mama, who is used to being chased by baby-sized dolls. A court decides to put the children out of harm's way on Isla Nublar or something. Oh, and it was a single judge, but he says it was a Supreme Court decision. But he seemed to be the only one presiding over the case. So I'm not sure that Larry Cohen knows how the Supreme Court works. The head of the pharmaceutical company that's to blame for the mutations tries to kill the babies, confirming that the fertility drug was the cause. But he's killed, and this helicopter explodes because I don't know why. A baby attacked a pilot who was apparently made of bombs. More time passes, and Jarvis is now working at a shoe store, and the judge from the case has died, and they say it's been 4 years. So it's 1985 now, if that date was 1981, which looks in line with the styles. They decide to go back to the island to run tests on the children, and they've grown quite a bit, and kill most of the team and steal the boat. And it turns out that they've reproduced, and oh man. Why do I keep watching movies about 5-year-olds who have aged rapidly and are having sex? Why? They can communicate with Jarvis telepathically, which explains how the baby found his home in the first movie. And Jarvis ends up in Cuba. It's complicated. And the kids end up in Florida to find Karen Black because they're dying of measles. Because in their primitive upbringing, they had no way to prevent measles and stop an outbreak. Very unlike today's society, where we have no worries of that because no one in their right mind wouldn't take the necessary steps to prevent their child from being susceptible to this horrible disease. Seriously, screw you, Jenny McCarthy. The police kill the rest of the mutants, while the Jarvises take the child to safety. So eventually, of course, there was a remake with 2009's It's Alive, which kicks off around Christmas, with pregnant Lenore and her boyfriend Frank. Her doctor is the most oddly 80-yard actor of all time.
We're 6 months in.
No, I know. I don't know what happened, but...
And somehow I don't think that someone was supposed to leave this on in demo mode. And the delivery goes wrong, leaving a very messy operating room. The baby goes from being a newborn to looking about 6 months old or so in seconds, but somehow I don't think that was intentional. There's a Perkins here, although this one's a member of the Night's Watch, and it looks like it could have been a date of '05, possibly. And eventually, baby's on the prowl, eating birds and rabbits, and then people, with Lenore covering up for it. And everything comes to a face-off with Perkins exploding, and Frank gets wounded by the garbage pail kid, and Lenore holds the baby while letting this very convincing fire consume them both, and I totally believe that fire is real. This one's odd because it has some of the weirdest sound design I've ever heard. I think the entire movie was 80-yard. Every performance is kind of weird and wooden. I'd just stay away from it. So there you have it. It's 4 movies that actually have a pretty solid continuity. The first 3, yeah, it wasn't bad at all. Worked out pretty well. I mean, the remake is garbage. Don't watch the remake. It's boring. It's tedious. It's not fun at all. It's just very bad. I love the original trilogy. The first It's Alive is a great movie. The second one's a little slow, but the third one's insane fun. The third one is just crazy fun. It's way more over top than the other two, and it's just a good ride. So highly recommended. I'd recommend any one of these except for the remake to watch and enjoy. And just for that fact, I'd recommend pretty much any of Larry Cohen's movies. The guy was a great low-budget filmmaker, and he will be missed. So let me know what you thought of these ones. Let me know what you thought of Larry Cohen and his film and his legacy. And leave any comments down below. Do the whole liking and subscribe stuff here. Do the Patreon thing as well, too. And I don't know, I guess I could see you in a little while for another great video. I gotta go unlock Stella's cage. Bye, guys.